Joe Rogan has over 70 episodes that have been completely removed from the internet. We investigated why these videos were taken down, including one guest who has had over 15 episodes completely censored. If you haven't seen part 1, go watch that first, then come back. Dr. Stephen Greer. He's a big-time alien conspiracy guy with some huge claims.
Actually, this ET I'm talking about is probably about 4 to 5 feet tall. I didn't know what the heck was going on. And I was up on this mountain in outside Boone, North Carolina, up in the mountains. And this, at first I thought it was a deer on its hind legs looking at me. And because it had deer-like eyes. And it came over and touched my right shoulder so firmly I could see the indentation.
Dr. Greer dedicated his life to alien research and revealing it to the public. He went on Joe Rogan only once.
One of the things that might have also got their attention was Operation Starfish Prime. Are you aware of that, from 1962, where they launched a nuclear bomb into space? They blew up a nuclear bomb in space.
Well, actually, one of our witnesses, Colonel Diedrichson, was with the Atomic Energy Commission, which became the DOE, and he was an Air Force colonel. And his responsibility was over all the nuclear facilities, but he knew of a program where we were going to lob a thermonuclear weapon and detonate it on the moon. And when that, and they actually worked on this, and when it went exo-atmospheric, when it left our atmosphere, and it was intercepted by an extraterrestrial vehicle and basically dematerialized, was taken out. And he had personal knowledge of this. So
they had actually tried to do this.
They actually launched it, and it was on its way to the moon.
Now, since this episode, Greer and his Discourse project have not released any significant evidence, and many people consider him crazy, and Joe might be one. Therefore, because Joe didn't want to spread misinformation, he removed the episode. However, the alternative theory behind this episode being taken down is a juicy conspiracy. The powers at be want to silence Greer as he knows too much. The episode with Joe contained no slurs or copyright issues. Moreover, there is another example of this happening.
It was supposed to be a show on Sci-Fi Channel, an interview show where I'd interviewed everybody, all the people in the field of cryptozoology and that, and sci-fi and science fiction and theory and UFOs. And I had Stephen Greer and Stephen Bassett on that same day.
I've had Stephen Greer on the show too.
Okay, so I interview Stephen Bassett. I'm about to interview Greer, and I get a call in about like noon, at our noon break, and they call and they say, your show's canceled. We want you out of the studio by the end of the day, and we're not going to air anything that you've done. Stephen Bassett, Stephen Greer, the UFO show, it gets canceled that day. Now, maybe Ms. Hammer made a decision, talk shows aren't really our thing, or Aykroyd's not really what we want on our network, or I don't know. Was she called by someone, or what? Why that day when I was going to do this vivid, UFO show that was going to go out on the air eventually? Why then did it get canceled?
Well, how are the ratings? How are the ratings?
Well, no, we never got to air. I did 26 of them, and we never got to air.
It never got to air?
Another Dr. Greer interview that was completely censored. And did you notice how hesitant Joe was when it was brought up too? Interestingly, Dr. Stephen Greer would also give his take on the episode being taken down.
Like when Joe Rogan says, oh yes, I can talk you free speech. To make his deal with Spotify, the show I did with Joe Rogan, forcibly by the corporate entity, had to be taken out. It is not in the lineup. You have to find it elsewhere.
Adam Kokesh. Adam Kokesh is a former soldier who served during the Iraq War back in 2004, and since has caused a lot of controversy, mainly around gun law. He runs a YouTube channel with over 250,000 subscribers, where he publicly expresses his strong views. He did the same back on his one and only appearance on Joe Rogan.
We will not be silent. We will not obey. We will not allow our government to destroy our humanity. We are the final American Revolution. See you next Independence Day.
He was arrested shortly after this back in 2013, but not only for possession of a firearm, but also for an illicit drug. The combination of this and his constant promotion of guns caused him to be banned on other social media platforms too. For example, he ran a counter-protest against anti-gun laws.
This is Adam versus the Man here in Washington, D.C. for the Million bombs for gun control march. I'm a gun owner. Let's talk.
We had a counter protest, and they moved us 100 yards over there, and they put a guard.
Well, we'll see about that. I don't follow unconstitutional orders.
Despite him keeping his YouTube channel, he was shadow banned, and he hasn't uploaded in over a year. Eddie Bravo. Next up, we have Eddie Bravo. Now, despite him being the second most common guest, appearing 88 times on the Joe Rogan Experience, one of his earlier appearances in episode 213 was deleted from YouTube. Like most of Eddie's appearances, it is a funny and entertaining episode. One story they covered was a suspect roleplay Eddie Bravo used to do.
For people who don't know, Eddie and I have been friends for a long time. And one time, before I knew Eddie, I would have advised him against doing this. He made a video of him playing a rapper that actually wears blackface. And the concept's really, it was pretty funny, man. But people got really mad at you. People got really mad.
Explain the concept.
The concept was that this guy was pretending that he had vitiligo and that he had to cover his whole body.
Just like Michael Jackson.
Yeah, just like Michael Jackson. So the makeup was just to balance out the real color of his skin because he's really black. It's crazy.
But he has like total blackface.
Yeah, so he's wearing like black. I mean, it's ridiculous. And he had an afro wig on, right? You had an afro wig.
Yeah. Well, the characters, like he curled his hair. It wasn't a wig. He's just curled his hair, and he's only wearing black makeup.
When you did it, did you curl your hair?
Oh no. I wore a wig.
Yeah.
However, this episode was taken down because of a story Joe shared about Joey Diaz.
One time at the goddamn Comedy Store, Joey Diaz, and this is in front of a mixed audience. It's not just, he's talking about some defensive line and some strategy in football that was a night of 1,000. And he's saying this on stage in front of a mixed crowd. Joey Diaz is crazy.
On this topic, you can really see Joe's evolution in this next clip.
Yeah, I think Joey being, 100% Cuban, I think a super Latin guy with that New York flavor.
Oh, yeah, he can get away
You can
with
say N-I-G-G-A. I think black people let him say
Are you really spelling it out instead of saying it?
Dude, I don't want people coming after me, dude.
It's become the new Muhammad. You can't even draw a picture of it.
Quatouf wouldn't even say that. Quatouf never said N-I-G-G-A.
Wow.
I won't go there.
Wow, that's amazing. What a powerful word.
Brody Stevens. Brody Stevens was a stand-up comedian that unfortunately passed away back in 2019. He had 2 appearances on the Joe Rogan Experience. Only his first was deleted. This podcast starts off on a highly carnal topic.
Guy use a vibrator on a woman, or a dildo, or is that like demeaning? Is that like?
I don't feel that you should ever bring tools into the equation.
Try out a Hitachi first, though. Always go in strong.
No, the problem is, man, you introduced that shit, and you basically set a bar that you can't hit that bar on your own. You're bringing in machinery and shit.
Sure, you guys
things with
shouldn't
high RPMs and batteries and. No, what kind of an unnatural thing is that? You're hitting her with a lawnmower, man. I mean, what are you doing? You're trying to vibrate her into stimulation, like supernaturally, in a way that would never happen in nature. So now you're gonna get this crazy freak addicted to sticking vibrating machines into her body to make herself come. If a girl can't get off when you eat her, she's broken, and you don't want her around.
So
okay?
Eating, oral's okay.
Yeah.
If you can.
Yeah.
I'm good at
Oral's
that.
fantastic.
I'm good at that.
Oral's great. If you don't eat, there's something wrong with you. Why would you not want to do that? It feels great. It feels great for the girl.
It tastes good. It
tastes
has
good.
flavor. It's like
Positive.
olives.
It's exciting.
It is. Positive energy. I love it.
Yeah.
Not only were these comments bad considering the modern-day feminist movement, but Joe would also drop this later on.
It's almost impossible to insult the average comedian.
Right.
You know, if you have a bunch of us and you came into a room and there was a bunch of us, you pretty much feel like you could say whatever you wanted.
Yeah.
Isn't it one of the beautiful things about being a comic? Like when you would go to the Comedy Store and pull into the back, you step out of your car, you could scream the N-word at the top of your lungs, and we would just go, "What's up, Brody?"
You could say whatever you want.
Yeah, you could just, hello. And we would just
whoa,
go,
I did not.
Come on.
I'm
We
saying
didn't
if
sign
he
papers.
said that,
Somebody said that,
I'm saying, I'm not saying it. I'm saying if he said that, we would have no problem with it. You could say the most ridiculous thing ever because comedians for the most part, are almost impossible to insult like that.
Bryan Callen and Jimmy Burke. This episode is with two regulars, Bryan Callen and Brian Redban, along with Jimmy Burke, who is an interesting character who does not even own a mobile phone. Many years after this initial episode, Joe and Callen would later reflect on this podcast and talk about Jimmy.
He's the closest thing to a monk. I was just with him. I flew him down to Florida.
Do you remember the time we had him on the podcast, folks? You want to watch a disaster podcast?
High.
We got him way too high.
Oh, God.
We got him like 3 or 4 hits deep, and he doesn't smoke weed.
And he hadn't eaten.
He hadn't eaten.
And he was thirsty.
I don't think if eating helps when you're smoking it.
Yeah.
I might be wrong. Does it?
Well, he was already low blood sugar, and he hadn't slept.
We barbecued that dude. We threw him in a Traeger grill and set it at 225 for 6 hours. He was forgetting stories in the middle of the first sentence.
He's amazing.
Yeah, we fucked him up, which is too bad because he tells some great stories. Now the world will forever know him as the guy who couldn't keep it together.
While Jimmy was explaining why he doesn't have a cell phone, he would leak this, which showed just how high he was.
We had so much fun in New York.
What if you break your leg and you need someone to come get you?
You know what, Joe?
What if
it hasn't
you want to
arisen?
call somebody that you like?
Well, that's good. That's good. I have a pocket full of quarters, and there's always
Where is there a goddamn payphone?
They're still there. You got to know. You got to know where they are. You got to know where they are.
Messenger pigeons, not
so
email.
you remember people's phone numbers?
Absolutely.
I know like 3 phone numbers.
Do you get leads?
Brian's phone number is 310-4.
Hey, you fucking dummy!
He doesn't realize how many people are listening.
Jesus Christ,
I was just proving, but there's a mic in front of me.
Meanwhile, you ought to change your voicemail so that people don't know that that's your real number.
True. It is no surprise that this episode was quickly removed following that. Joey Diaz. I'm going to assume that most of you know Joey Diaz, and I am also sure that you probably thought he would make it onto this list at some point. Joey has 2 banned episodes from the podcast, both of which are over a decade old. The more recent episode that was removed was from episode 128, which had hilarious moments such as this one.
We got down, Joe Diaz. We went deep. We just kept smoking.
We just fucking smoked. This didn't do shit to me.
What?
You gotta break out the yay weed when I come up here, dog.
What are you talking about?
Brian, that weed we just smoked, don't do shit to me. If you make me drive 40 minutes up here, you gotta get me stoned, bro. That Susquehanna weed, I've been telling you about that shit. Yeah, you brought that shit to the ice house, too. That shit don't do nothing to you.
You're so crazy.
It's
you
true.
You need to go to a doctor.
What the f***, dog? You gotta
need to
bring
go
out
to
some
a,
strong
you need to go
fucking
to a
weed,
doctor.
guy.
What are you talking
that shit
about?
don't
It
do
is
nothing
strong.
to you, dog. You gotta bust out some good weed, dog. Enough is enough with this shit.
Wait, it's
You
the
walk
best.
around like Jack
It's the
Herrera
best
and you got
weed
some
you
shit
can
fucking
buy.
weed. No, it's not. Look at my fucking eyes. Do I look high to you, guy?
Yeah, you look high as fuck.
Because I smoke on the way. Because I knew you were gonna give me that Susquehanna weed.
Joey,
You better start getting some good fucking weed,
You gave him
dog.
that Hannah Montana weed,
Yeah,
Joe, didn't
that's
you?
the fucking weed you give me. That's the second time in a
Yo, dude, you just
Cocksucker, I love
smoked
you to death.
train wreck.
It was garbage. They
That
sold
is
you
not
on it. Look at my
garbage. You're
eyes.
so crazy.
That's garbage. You better
You're
start getting
so
some
crazy.
strong fucking weed or go to a different
Joey,
store.
relax,
I love you, dog.
Relax. I love you too.
I
But
love
you got to go to a doctor.
Damn, you always hit me
you're
with this
broken.
badass weed and then you
You're
talk
broken.
shit that you got stoned. What the f*** are you smoking? Look at me. What broken?
Joey,
what fucking broken?
what are
You
you
hit me with this
what are you talking
terrible
about?
weed. Let's do this, bro.
Joey,
We're here, motherfuckers.
Brian,
Uncle
hold on.
Joey's
Brian,
here.
how high are you right now?
Bro, he gets
Highest,
high on a
right?
toenail.
And this only escalated.
You invite me to your home and you give me the Susquehanna weed.
What the f is a Susquehanna? What the fuck are you talking
Remember
about?
those Susquehanna hat companies?
No.
From Abbott and Costello, those cheap fucking hats? You gotta
What?
bring the A-team here.
What
Anyway,
fucking planet are you from?
you're fucking smoking that shit.
Shut the fuck up, will you? I'm talking about the goddamn thing I did this weekend.
Oh, okay. I didn't you were talking about that shit weed. You just sparked.
You are so fucked up.
Fuck, look at my eyes.
Yeah, that's what it is. It's not that you weigh 300 pounds and you smoke pot all day, every day. That's
Well,
what.
blame it
That's
on
not
you.
what it
Blame
is.
Blame it on my
It's
fatness.
just something on my
That's
weed.
fucking do it. Blame
It
it on
is.
my fatness.
It's not
No.
fat. It's the
No,
physical
it's shitty
size of your
fucking
body.
weed, dog. It's shitty weed.
Oh, you're crazy.
You go to that same
Best
store,
weed you can
gotta-
get.
yeah,
I
know.
go to
Get
other
the
stores.
fuck outta here.
I go to other stores.
Get the f out of here. That's the second time, dog.
He
Don't
is
bring
so
shit weed.
fucking whiny
I love
and
you to death.
complaining. He's so whiny and complaining. So
He's so Brody. You're so Brody.
This is
They bring
Joey.
That shit. You don't like bad weed.
Joey, please shut the fuck up, man. This is a goddamn podcast. You've been complaining for 5 fucking minutes about
Because
weed.
you're telling me that what's Susquehanna? You know what Susquehanna is.
I don't know what Susquehanna is.
Fugazi.
No more fucking late night podcast for Joey. No more.
Anyways, back to why this episode was taken down. With Joe's N-word controversy in mind, I would not be surprised if this comment from the first minute of the episode was why it was removed. They went to the movies.
So I go, you gotta go to one where there's Planet of the Apes, man. We're gonna go see Planet of the Apes. So I look on the iPhone app, and it says, okay, take me to this one. And the guy goes, okay. I go, is that in a good neighborhood? He's like, oh, yeah. Guy barely speaks English. He takes us there. We get out, and we're giggling. Oh, we're gonna go see Planet of the Apes. We walk into Planet of the Apes. We walked into Africa, dude. We walked in the door, and there was no white people. Planet of the Apes didn't take place in Africa. That was a racist thing for me to say. But you see what I'm saying.
This clip was later dug up many years later, and Joe was nearly canceled for it. He would reply with this statement online.
There's another clip that I have to address. There's a clip from 11 years ago. I was telling a story on the podcast about how me and my friend Tommy and his girlfriend, we got really high. We were in Philadelphia, and we went to go see Planet of the Apes. And we didn't know where we were going. We just got dropped off by a cab, and we got dropped off in this all-black neighborhood. And I was trying to make the story entertaining, and I said we got out, and it was like we were in Africa. It's like we were in Planet of the Apes. I did not, nor would I ever say that black people are apes, but it sure sounded like that.
Moving on, the second removed Joey Diaz appearance is episode 108. The reasoning is similar to why the first episode was removed, but this time it is Joey Diaz who nearly got canceled for his comments instead of Rogan, with Joey explaining what he would make women do in order to perform at the comedy club.
She's lucky she paid $100. I had girls sucking my dick and giving me coke from Chewy. You think I'm kidding you? Yeah, you gotta suck my dick, get up in the belly room. I'll make a call for you. That's the gateway into coming to Hollywood. Everybody knows that.
How many girls did you have do that?
Oh, 20 of them. I had this little blonde open mic chick dog that used to come up to the comedy store with a 20 and just take me up to the belly room and suck my dick and go do her set. She was tremendous.
Wow.
She finally freaked out. When she got to Hollywood, bro, she was beautiful. And when she left, she had dirty, her nails were dirty. And then a year later, she wrote me a letter to the comedy store. You sucker, you broke me. I kept shooting balls in a ear ball.
In 2020, people picked up on this comment and tried to cancel Joey, which is why the episode was removed. Joey would quickly respond to the cancellation attempts with this video, which is appropriately titled, Wanted, Dead or Alive.
That podcast was taped in 2010 before we knew podcasts were going to go anywhere. Who the f*** knew they were going to go anywhere? Tonight, there's a girl down there in 97. I knew her very well. She had been lurking around there, and she wanted stage time or whatever. And it was one time she asked me, I would suck your dick. I thought it was a joke. I even walked into the payphone that used to be at the bottom of the original and made believe I was calling Mitzi and hung up the phone. And listen, it was a mistake then. I knew it, whatever. I talked about it. Now, you guys want to get mad at a guy for laughing? I don't know what Law and Order you fucking watch, but they never arrested nobody for laughing, okay? And there's nothing in the Constitution that gets you in trouble for laughing. We laugh. I see a guy in a wheelchair fall, I laugh. That's my crazy sense of humor. So everybody has a different sense of humor. You motherfuckers listen to SNL and, oh my God, go yourself. They never said a funny thing, but now you want to attack this new style of comedy. Now, I'm not responsible for what anybody else did. I'm responsible for my actions.
Jamie Kilstein. Jamie Kilstein is another stand-up comedian. He is also a writer and radio host for Citizen Radio, who is an infamous left-wing feminist. He's made it to the Joe Rogan Experience 3 times, but his first appearance back in 2013 was deleted.
Well, Citizen Radio, we started it, I'm assuming for the same reason you started your show, which is we just felt like, the mainstream media not only wasn't covering a lot of the stories that they should be covering, but that they weren't kind of speaking to, the disenfranchised or the poor or the young or minorities. They were just, speaking for a bunch of David Brooks clones. And we met a lot of people on the road who were our age and wanted to learn more about politics. But every time they tried to watch the news, they were like, I'm either being lied to or talked down to, or maybe they weren't educated enough.
His reputation as a feminist came back to bite him not too long after this. Also in this next clip, he looks completely different.
years after all this, I guess what happened was one of these girls essentially started to try to find any girl who has been pissed off by me before, and they found enough for an article that I think like 2 articles came out. I left Citizen Radio because the show was getting a ton of complaints because our inner circle started to find out that there were quote-unquote accusations, which the word accusation makes it sound Weinstein-y.
Accusations of.
So that's what.
They were saying, but it was very unspecific. What I read, they said predatory behavior, and I was like, oh, meaning he's trying to get laid. That's what a man does. Like, not predatory in the sense of you're victimizing someone, or doing something horrible to someone, or even.
And this is when my own words kind of bit me in the ass, because I spent an entire year. Or years being like, hashtag believe women, and then you read that and you go, hashtag don't believe women. Like, you don't know what to do. And like, I was always like, if you call a girl who accuses you, crazy, you're just projecting, and like you're trying to. And then suddenly I'm reading this article, I'm like, this is crazy.
However, before he was kicked off the Citizen Radio show and divorced from his wife, the reason his appearance on JRE was deleted was because they got into a sensitive topic pretty deep.
If you are that sensitive, you do not belong in a comedy club. If the word will send you into a fucking panic. I feel unfortunate. I feel sad for you. You are very unfortunate that this has happened to you. Maybe a comedy club is not the best place for you. Maybe you should go somewhere else where it is in a 100% uncensored ride through the mind and imagination of Daniel Tosh.
But not PTSD shit. I'm like, you can't. If somebody gets.
She didn't say in her blog that she was raped. She said in her blog that she felt offended that he would joke around about rape.
No, I was talking about.
You were saying PTSD. So the hypothetical doesn't work on her.
Let's say that girl was.
Look, if that girl did write that in her blog, it'd be a totally different blog. Okay, but you're saying survivor when he made a rape joke. She's not a rape survivor, man.
No, I'm saying in the audience.
But she's the victim. She's the person who got said that word.
What about the audience right now of this podcast?
Considering how touchy a topic this was, it's no wonder when Joe moved to Spotify, they wanted this episode to be gone to save from future backlash. Ari Shaffir. Ari Shaffir is another regular on the podcast with over 65 appearances. However, 2 of his earlier episodes have both been removed. First is episode 118. Now, this is the only time Joe has explicitly described the abuse he received and others from his father.
All my damage came from my real father. And
before you were 7?
Yeah, before I was 7. That's all the damaging. My real father was crazy. He was like a psychotic person.
Really?
Yeah, he beat out of my mother.
Like, he would be the type to come home like,
out of my cousin.
Really?
Yeah, he beat my cousin up. He picked my cousin up by his hair, dude.
Drunk and doing it? Or
No. My cousin had done something. He had hurt somebody. He was playing hard and hurt somebody. And he was a bigger kid. He was like 16. Yeah. And my dad picked him up by his hair. I'll never forget. Threw him in. He was a big guy. Big, scary, crazy cop from New Jersey. Yeah. So that was all my... from when I was like real young. I got to see worst case scenario, someone who just can't keep it together, smacks women, beats the shit out of kids, beats the shit out of them.
Now, many years later, Joe Rogan's biological father, whom Joe was talking about in this clip, would respond to these comments.
Joe, I don't know where you're getting all this stuff from. Picked my cousin's son up by the head of the hair, knocked him out, did this, beat up ladies. It's not right to be one-sided, Joe. There's 2 sides to a story, and you never heard mine. I'm really not the bad guy. I gave you 25 plus years. Give me 25 minutes. That's all. I'll meet you halfway. I'll go anywhere and meet you. Look in my face when I'm talking to you and tell me I'm lying. But I know you're lying.
This is important for why this episode has been removed, because Joe Rogan's father and his daughter, who is Joe's stepsister, would say in an interview that they took legal action against Joe, hence why episode 118 was removed.
And he sent them a cease?
We sent Joe a cease and desist letter from further defaming my father.
And what happened with that?
Joe has not spoken of my father since.
The earlier episode of Ari was removed for very different reasons. The conversation first started off getting into slightly risky territory.
There's something very special about poor white people that act like poor black people. There's a weirdness to it, man. There's like when they're serious, when like white dudes are like real serious about being street and acting black.
Yeah, but like, is it just a poor thing?
No, not necessarily. I mean, a little bit of it, sure. I mean, because their world interacts, you know, they're intertwined, you know, the communities, the poor white and poor black communities. I mean, there's something weird when a dude has a clear affectation, you know, he just takes it on. And all of a sudden, you know, it's like, he won't get crazy. You know, you won't get crazy. And like, I've seen white guys talk like that, and you're like, wow, okay, there's no part of the country where white people talk like this.
But then Joe would say this: "We will censor it due to monetization issues, and also keep in mind that Joe has since apologized for these comments."
Especially like involved in like when I was playing pool and I was going watching guys gamble on pool, there was always a lot of like these sort of thug type characters who were white guys that talked like black guys, that it would even say, they would say like, "This think you gonna come here and take all our shit? Like, this think you gonna come here and take all our shit? Show this motherfucker who's up. Show this," and be like, wow, like this guy's, it's like an alien person. Like you're not just saying these things.
Russell Peters and Junior Simpson. Russell Peters and Junior Simpson are both stand-up comedians and actors. They both appeared on the podcast in episode 116, but this has since been taken down. Russell Peters has 4 other appearances on the podcast. Contrary to this, Junior Simpson has not been seen since. This is also reflective of their comedy careers, where Russell Peters can be seen on YouTube with millions of views.
She's giving me the best wrist job I've ever had in my life. Like, I didn't know you could do that with a wrist. I went back to my hotel room that night because it felt so good. I thought I'd give it a shot, you know? Sitting at the edge of my bed, I'm like, all right.
Whereas Junior Simpson is lucky to get 1,000.
This is a direction my sat-nav gave me. In 300 yards, turn right. I got paranoid. I thought to myself, how has my life become that now my sat-nav is calling me names, hey?
Why this episode was deleted is pretty self-explanatory.
I had a bit in one of my last CDs about there's 3 magic words, love and nigger. And nigger is the only one that black people are only allowed to say. And it is some weird thing, but if you say it, people feel like they are allowed to hit you. Like they're allowed to physically, there's very few words that are that strong. Where if you say it in front of someone, not even calling them someone, just say, boy, there's a lot of niggers around here, they will jump on you and beat the out of you.
I don't even like the word. I don't even like the word nigger because it's only 1 letter away from a fight. You know
yeah, right. Well, how about niggardly? You know, that's a
an
term
actual word in the
it's
dictionary.
Like stingy or it's like frugal, right, or something like that.
What about Nigeria?
Neil Brennan. If you're a Joe Rogan fan, then you're likely familiar with Neil Brennan. He's appeared 11 times on the Joe Rogan podcast, most recently in April 2024. He is best known for his work with Dave Chappelle and his own stand-up comedian career.
Think about it. Following us around everywhere we go. Just because of the color of our skin. Killing our cousins for no reason. And then when I tell my black friends that the sun killed my cousin, they're like, well, what was he wearing? I'm like,
This episode was again Joe's fault, who dropped this while talking about the Tracy Morgan cancellation.
Like if we were standing around, if we were sitting in my office and I said, well, what about if you had a gay son? And you'd be like, I'll stab that little I would start laughing my fucking ass off.
Of course you would. Well, that's the other thing.
And if Tracy Morgan was here and he started standing, I'll stab that little
yo.
And guess what? If he said that in front of a different crowd, you know, one crowd would laugh hilariously.
Brian Posehn. Brian Posehn is a well-known comedian and actor. If you have not seen him before, then you may have heard his voice in The Big Bang Theory, Adventure Time, or American Dad as a voice actor. His one and only appearance on the Joe Rogan Experience was deleted due to Joe's wild comments in this episode.
They're like dogs, but they're a lot smarter.
Don't they you too?
Yeah,
That's been on the,
love it.
On the internet.
Look,
I'll
everyone needs to a little bit if you don't have any hands, you know? They have flippers.
Yeah.
You can't just rely on someone's kindness.
Is there one rape dolphin, or are they
raping?
Or do they like?
They're all eager.
Bang you like? Do they couple like one of them like, hey, look over there, and then then you look, and then the other one comes in, and
Dolphins are particularly ruthless when it comes to breeding females, because breeding females, when they have babies, they won't mate for a bunch of years afterwards while the kid's growing up.
Right.
So male dolphins will kill the babies to force the women to fuck again. So one
Jesus.
of the So people don't tell you about that when they tell you how dolphins are green, they're eco.
Cliffy B and Johnny Cristo. Cliff Bleszinski, aka Cliffy B, is best known for his contributions to producing the video game Gears of War, and his experience being the former design director for Epic Games. Johnny Cristo played in the popular band The Escape Club. Cliffy B appeared 2 other times on the podcast before his episode with Johnny Cristo, who only appeared in episode 112 that was taken down. The reason for this is becoming a common one.
I'm going to be better off if there weren't words like this that are so super hypercharged. I don't think we need to let new words in. I think, like people that start screaming that all of a sudden midget is just like saying nigger.
Yeah.
Oh, come on.
Relax
what are
with
we
the
doing?
power you give to words.
Exactly. And why does everything have to be, it's just like saying, every fucking word is like, just like saying, midget is just like saying nigger. Faggot is just like saying, like I have heard so many versions of that. Cunt is just like saying, no, it wasn't. You know why? Because nobody owned cunts.
Cunt is the nigger equivalent to.
Exactly. Exactly. And you know what? It's a different thing. Like everybody wants to say it's like because the most offensive thing.
Yeah.
It's a dehumanizing thing.
They just keep going and going, no, this is the most offensive thing.
You can't add things. You can't add things to the banned list.
It just tells you so much about a person by how much power they ascribe to irrelevancy.
Duncan Trussel. He is another regular on the podcast. Interestingly, Duncan Trussel was also the guest for the longest JRE episode, which was over 5 hours long, when both Joe and Duncan got high out of their minds. 3 of his appearances have been removed. The first one is self-explanatory.
Eddie Griffin explained to me how Bruce Lee died once. He talked to me for like 20 minutes.
He came in the room, and there was 100 other motherfuckers in this room, and Bruce Lee looked at all them and said, which one of y'all wants to die first? And then they all came at him, and they could not get close enough because his feet and his hands was moving so fast. These bitches was just dropping left and right. But they had to kill him with poison.
Not too much to be said there. In the next episode with Duncan Trussel that was removed, they did open it up like this.
All day. They continued to head bop to this song for the next opening minute of the podcast, so a copyright issue resulting in the episode being taken down is possible. However, the more likely reason is Duncan Trussel, who dropped this instead of Joe this time around. All right, hit me with it.
So it goes, Hare Krishna,
Hare Krishna,
Hare Krishna,
Hare Krishna,
Krishna Krishna,
Krishna Krishna,
Hare Hare,
Hare Hare,
Hare Rama,
Hare Rama,
Hare Rama,
Hare Rama,
Rama Rama,
Rama Rama,
Hare Hare,
Hare Hare.
So it goes, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama,
I'm not
Hare.
gonna remember that. I
Hare
lost.
Krishna, Hare Krishna,
I got lost at the fourth Hare Krishna.
Rama, Rama, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. Oh, here's an easier one. Here's another mantra, which is a good one. It's just Ram.
Ram.
R-A-M. So go Ram.
Ram.
Ram. Ram. Ram. Ram. Ram. Ram.
If you didn't catch it, rewind it. The reason behind the third and final Duncan Trussel episode to be removed is actually not race-related. Just kidding, it is. Again, Joe is referencing Eddie Griffin's Bruce Lee story.
Ever told you the how Bruce Lee died story?
No.
Bruce Lee fought 1,000 I'll tell you this crazy thing. I mean, like, he was standing there and he took about 900 of them out until one finally got the death touch on his ass.
Death touch.
He will tell a tale. Eddie Griffin would be the perfect guy to hang out with drunk in a pool hall on like a Friday night, and he's talking.
Joe really does love that Bruce Lee story. Doug Benson. Doug Benson is a 61-year-old stand-up comedian who runs a YouTube channel with over 400,000 subscribers and is a regular on the podcast. However, his second episode on the podcast was taken down. This clip just sums up how wild these old episodes were.
The Jiffy Pop is ready.
I wonder if it's possible for the bag to explode. I've never had that happen.
It's never happened.
It just slowly leaks.
Yeah.
You know what? Since this is your idea, sir, why don't you take the first
all
blast
right.
out of that?
Fair enough.
I think the hardest part for me is I'll think of like a one bit, like a tweet joke that I want to make it into a whole joke, and it's hard to take, just a small little idea and make it a big joke. Like I have this thing that happened to me the other day. I think it's hilarious, but I need to build off of it. I can't just say that and be like, haha, that's it,
Well, you know what, man? The War of Art is a brilliant book by Dr. Stephen Pressfield. Dr. Stephen Pressfield. I just gave him a doctorate.
While they were baked out of their mind, Joe spoke about this hilarious Fear Factor story.
We did Fear Factor in a slaughterhouse, and that was pretty dark, man. It was dark. It smelled up. So we had it had a weird stench to it, and we had a guy go crazy there. It was one of the few times on Fear Factor where I was worried about my safety. Because the stunt was a guy had to dunk his head. Everybody had to dunk their head in blood. We had this cow's blood, and you had to keep the cow's blood at 38 degrees. It couldn't get any warmer than that, because around 40, 41 degrees, it starts developing bacteria like very quickly, and you can get incredibly ill. And this guy was like one of those Tony Robbins motivational guys. Like he had bought like motivational tapes, and he had read books, and he was like repeating his mantra to him. And he was standing outside. He was a big guy, man. He was like a football player. He was yoked. He was a lot bigger than me, man. And he was standing in front of this like a side view mirror on a pickup truck, and he was talking to the mirror. He was like, "You are a winner. You are a person who succeeds. You are a person who sets goals and accomplishes them." And he was pacing back and forth, and then he would go back to that mirror and he would say it over and over again. And he was like all this positive affirmations, and I was like, oh my God, this guy's crazy. And I just started thinking, oh, this guy's crazy. We got a crazy guy on the show. How do you screen this crazy guy on the show? And so then he gets to the time where he has to do the stunt. Well, there's a bunch of people before him, and they do it, and girls do it, all these people do it, but he does it, and he starts freaking out. He can't do it. He's choking. He's choking. The reason why he needs all this crazy motivational, he's got a fucking tornado of in his brain, and it just wins every time something comes up, and he can't accomplish things. So he's in this blood, and he starts slapping the blood down. Fuck, and he's screaming, and he's covered in blood. And then I'm looking around, and there's cameramen, and they all like smoke cigarettes, and they're out of shape, and there's like a little skinny guy who's holding their cord, and I'm like, there's no security here. We've got a crazy guy covered in blood. And I'm gonna tell him that he's eliminated from the show.
You just took Carrie to the prom.
Exactly. Ready for lightning bolts to come out of his eyes and the place to go on fire, and we all die in a Stephen King movie.
So why was this episode deleted? I'll just play the clip.
You've already said.
John Heffron. John Heffron is another stand-up comedian. This is another common trend, it seems. He's appeared 6 times on the podcast, but his 3rd and 4th appearances were both deleted. With the first episode, Joe kicks it off, ripping into a woman.
I know a woman that was barely overweight, man. I mean, she was like 5 pounds overweight, maybe? Like a little overweight.
She had 2 less cans of Coca-Cola
Shit,
the week
I wouldn't even say 5, okay? Right. I mean, yeah, she was probably 10 pounds over the perfect, but she was good. She wasn't fat, and she got lipo. And I'm like, you lazy bitch. You're just gonna go in and get that stuff sucked out of you? There's like a serious, easy solution. Yeah. Just eat less, work out more. It's that simple. Get up an hour earlier. Yeah. Just do some crazy DVD.
Walk 30% faster than you normally walk.
Even if you can't get to a gym, do you know how many fucking DVDs there are out there? All you have to do is follow the DVD. You need 2 hand weights, and you follow along with this crazy fitness freak, and the next thing you know, you're in shape. It's goddamn, getting a hose stuffed under your skin and sucking fat out of your body. Whoa, man, that's some deep shit. And then you have to wear compression shorts. You have to wear these heavy shorts, because if you don't, then a lot of times it doesn't smooth out good. A lot of times what happens when you get the lipo is it leaves behind like funky, like meteor crater type. It's not all smooth like your leg. So it's a little thinner, but it's all weird when you touch it. You could feel scar tissue under there, man. They're chewing out your body. You lazy. Get the Jim.
This would be considered controversial nowadays, but Joe put the nail in the coffin with this comment.
Well, everybody's got a goddamn camera on their cell phone. There's pictures of the guy from Seinfeld yelling on stage. There's video of that. What are the odds you're there when that happens and you have a camera?
Right.
You know, there's that. How often does that happen?
Right.
That might have never happened ever again in the whole universe.
Right.
Kramer from Seinfeld yelling on stage at the Laugh Factory, and someone got a video of that.
Right.
You're telling me they don't have one video of one alien, one video of one little gray man in your room that's realistic to me?
On the other hand, whilst most episodes were deleted in Joe Rogan's initial move to Spotify in early 2020, and then more in 2022, episode 64 with John Heffron was only removed at the start of 2024. As this is a recent removal, there is no footage from it anywhere on the internet we could find, so the reason behind it is a mystery. Maybe the people in power are trying to cover something up. If you have any theories, let us know in the comment section. Daryl Wright and Brian Whitaker. Both of these guys are American stand-up comedians. Daryl is still very active in his comedy career.
I might be talking crazy because I don't smoke weed no more. I'm not lying, y'all. Now, no, and y'all, San Bernardino, y'all are the reason why I don't smoke weed no more. I was here like a year ago, me and a friend of mine from D.C. Right out here, matter of fact, we was out there high as minding our own business, selling drugs, and the cops jumped out on us. Do y'all realize the cops down friend turned around and bit the dog back?
Whereas Brian Whitaker has less than 10 subscribers on YouTube and edits laughing noises into his videos.
Just be a whole movie of this awesome male hero just having a ball, ripping everyone's nuts off, and then out of nowhere, as soon as he's about to kill the main bad guy, some dumb broad he plowed 20 minutes ago just pops up like, stop! Don't kill him, where's it gonna end, don't you see? Even as an 8-year-old in the theater, you're like, that's not a female. No, I've met females in real life, and I'm on to you.
After all that was said on this episode, it's not a surprise it was taken down.
Look, we saw how ugly that got. There was so many murders in New Orleans during after Katrina. They can't even count them. They don't even know what to do.
But they was murdering people in New Orleans when the lights was on.
They
so
were, but it got worse. It got way worse. It got worse with the
saying.
cops too. The cops went all zombie vigilanteism. There were cops who were driving around in pickup trucks, picking people off with guns. There's a lot of crazy shit went down in New Orleans, man. A lot of people were killed. I guarantee you, we could have an awesome TV show where it take you and put you in a fucking bow tie and bring you around white neighborhoods in the South, and you will see some racism like you wouldn't believe.
Yeah.
Dog,
I can add to what you're saying. I mean,
I've like been to the South, man.
I know you have.
I've been to the South. I love the South because my whole thing.
What I'm saying, you by yourself with a clipboard going through white neighborhoods.
My whole theory. Now, also,
write down every time someone calls you. I need more paper.
Wright would talk about his great idea while in jail.
Okay, I went in, right, and I had some shoes, tennis shoes.
Right.
And these dudes wanted them. And I had to fight them every day to keep my fucking shoes. And then I got sick of fighting these guys. So I had a bright idea that instead of fighting them, I'll just hit the CO so they'll think that I'm crazy.
Right.
Well, I did that. And what happened was they got these people they got these cops called the stormtroopers. Like, they'll run into the tier in riot gear if anything break out, like full riot gear. That shit. I hit the CO, and these dudes roll in, and when I woke up, I was in the infirmary. I had broken ribs, like they f***ed me up.
Damn.
So when I got out of the infirmary, they sent me to solitary for 45 days.
You should have asked somebody about that plan. Like, yo, listen,
who am I
man,
gonna
tired
talk
of
to?
people
Man?
trying to take my
You're lonely at first, I
I'm
guess.
thinking about going crazy and up a cop.
I didn't have a chance to up. I hit that cop one time, just a body shot, just a niggas think, dog. Before I think I drew my fist back, I had like 10 motherfuckers in riot.
Did they stop trying to take your shoes after that?
Yeah.
So
yeah,
they knocked you out.
No. The cops. Yeah, but people thought I was nuts.
From watching this episode, I can see Daryl Wright's comedy career outperformed Brian Whitaker's. Jim Norton. Jim Norton is a stand-up comedian, podcast host, and author. An interesting fact is that his wife is openly 29 years younger, from Norway, and transgender. I can't find any video footage from the episode. However, it was the first ever live audience episode.
Our guest, Mr. Jimmy Norton. Let him know, folks. Come on. Little Jimmy. Welcome one and all to the first ever live podcast that we've done. It rests on your hands if this sucks.
This story alone could be enough to get the episode removed.
My friend Eddie dated a lot of girls that used to do meth. He was dating a lot of strippers at one point in his life. And he would say, you always know when you're dating a girl who does meth because their houses are spotless. Because they don't eat. And he goes, and you can f*** them in the butt and there's never anything in there. Because they don't eat. They
great.
never so you never have to worry. It's always clean. He's like, it's amazing. You just f*** them in the ass all the time.
That's great. You know they don't waste any time with dental hygiene if they're on meth. That's great. So if you f*** the ass real hard, a tooth falls out, you go, that was a two-toother. All right.
And when you combine that with this comment from Joe, it's no surprise the episode was taken down.
The hate speech, like I recently retired the word and I relish every chance to talk about how I retired the word so I get to use it again. Just because I love the way it comes off the tongue. It's just, you know, I have a few bits now that I would like to throw it in there.
Yeah.
And then for good measure, Joe finished off with this.
And then when they aired it after 1 a.m., they went it uncensored completely, except they beeped out like that's too much. Like they drew a line. And so I had a conversation with this guy, a gay guy at the network, and he goes, well, it's incredibly offensive, and quite frankly, it's our word. I go, what? And he goes, it's our neighbor. He goes, we can say I go, that's the gayest shit I've ever heard in my life. And you can go yourself. And I said it an extra 3 or 4 years just because of that guy. It was like, this is the stupidest argument ever. You know, like having one word like is bad enough. One dangerous, out there, Candyman word. I mean, just say it and fucking punch you in the head. It's the craziest thing ever. You know, you could walk down the street and call your basketball a you non-bouncing, and people will just beat the out of you. They will you up. Like,
did you have to use
there's no other word like
Joe?
that. It just came to mind. That's the first thing that came to mind.
Bill Burr. This is another regular on the podcast. Bill Burr has many great moments on the podcast, but in this removed episode, he had one of his most legendary moments in the early history of the podcast.
On Stitcher anymore, right? You pulled it off of Stitcher?
Yeah, I took it off.
Yeah. So it's not a lot of controversy with this Stitcher app.
Yeah, they just sort of.
Apparently, people are getting.
I love Stitcher, and I back it up 100%. I think it's fucking awesome being able to go in your car and just be able to choose podcasts and listen to them automatically. You know, streaming.
Well, this is the problem I had. They just took mine, never told me, and then were selling advertising, and they were making.
Whoa.
Which is that's not fucking cool. So
that's illegal.
We told them to stop. And then they sent me an offer, which is hilarious. It's like someone stole your car, and then you show up, hey, give me my car back. Like, hey, look, I put some rims on it. You know, you want a piece of that? It's like,
people that
it's like you're gonna cut me in on the advertising. What about all the money you've already made off of the fucking thing you didn't give you?
Yeah, exactly.
It's like that internet thing where just like, hey, you know, everybody can take everybody's.
You don't think there's a problem with that, Brian? That you're providing free content and they're selling advertisement on it?
No, I have no problem with it.
How come?
Because they're offering a service. They're offering if my listeners want to drive around and be able to stream my show, I'm not offering that on my website. So let them do it. And
I offer it on my website.
How do you drive around? So you have to stream it through the internet?
You can stream it. You can stream it off of your mobile phone.
No, you go to like iTunes and I like look at. This is the thing about.
That's what I'm saying though. You can't do that. If you're driving in your car right now and you're like, I want to listen to Joe Rogan's podcast from 4 weeks ago.
You're streaming something that I created. You got to kick me money for that. You can't just take. They're not just streaming. That'd be like if I started a radio station and I started playing music. Let me finish. And I didn't pay anybody. I didn't pay any of the musicians.
But they're not putting advertising in the show.
Yeah, they are.
No, I listen to Streamer all the time.
They're adding
dude,
ads.
you miss. Why are they coming to the website?
They're not putting advertising in the show.
They're not adding ads.
No, they're not adding ads in the show.
Why are guys saying that they are?
Because I think on Stitcher's website or like on the apps they have advertising
they
on
have
the
ads
side.
on the
Yeah, and they're getting all these hits.
Who cares about that?
No, because they're making money off of our stuff, dude.
This back and forth between Burr and Redban continues for a few more minutes while continuing to escalate.
You play a band's song on radio, the band gets paid.
Okay.
You get paid.
Okay.
Do you understand that?
All right, but I'm saying that there's no ads on this. So I'm going to comedy right now. I'm typing in comedy. Now I'm going to comedians. Here's comedians right up here. Now there's a little banner that pops up at the very bottom. But
that little banner makes money.
Death Squad, I'm at the very top.
That little banner makes money.
I know,
and
but
then
Facebook makes money off of you, but you're on Facebook. Are you going to sue Facebook and pull off your stuff off Facebook? They make shitloads
Yeah,
of money.
but wait a minute. If he had a blog and they copied his blog entries and put it on Facebook and then started selling advertising,
I chose.
Well, you chose to be on Stitcher, right?
No, I didn't.
Yeah,
No,
they
he
asked
didn't.
you.
No, he didn't.
They didn't ask you?
That's the whole point of what he's saying, Brian, is that they copied
I
his shit.
chose to be on Facebook, and I choose what I put to go to put up. I did not choose to be on Stitcher. Stitcher took my shit and put.
See, no advertisement before it. This is me talking.
Okay, Brian, he's talking.
Yeah, dude. You know, it's like I'm trying to explain it. We had it right there, and you're so convinced of your argument. I mean, if you're totally convinced of your argument, I'll just stop right now.
Then finally, after 20 minutes of arguing, it culminated in this.
That bring you there, like these guys play the music I want. That's why the bands get played. People are going to Stitcher.
So you have a problem with YouTube too, then? Do you have videos on YouTube?
Dude, this is one of these guys. Like this is one of these guys where it's just like you can't make a point because he's already
RSS
already thinking of his next point and he just wants to be right.
No, I'm just saying that's what RSS feeds. If you don't want like distributed and like made money off it, like you don't have an RSS feed on your website. RSS feed on your website is for other websites to grab and use your content.
No, it's not. It's to get shit for free.
Applications.
No, it's to download shit for free. It's something that allows you to keep up with people as they put out podcasts. They go to your iPod.
Stitcher does. Stitcher grabs your RSS feed and repackages.
No, it doesn't, Brian. It copies your MP3. You're wrong.
And it gets it from
copies your
RSS
MP3 and then sends it out through its own application
Dude,
and
I'm
has
gonna say right now,
advertising on its
you are
application.
100% wrong, and there's no way to convince him because he's totally convinced of his argument.
Yeah.
Totally convinced of it.
Well, Brian, the point is...
Dude, we're not saying you're a bad person. Look at you looking down in your lap, you're sulking.
You cannot... Listen...
What makes this clip even more legendary is that in a later episode, Brian Redban goes on the computer to bring up Bill Burr's Twitter.
Like, just puts his hand up and you have to high five. And fuck, even the way he high fived was hilarious. Mine was somehow, I went up to Greer Barnes, not Greer Barnes. I went up to Godfrey, and said some really shit to him as Greer Barnes was standing there delivering a package. Like, dude, hey, I took a recommendation. Something like Gosford's Park was hilarious. Some really stupid white movie. And then Greer's sitting there looking at Godfrey like he's a fucking sellout or whatever.
As you can see, Redban finds out he has been blocked, which Joe and Burr are oblivious to it, and the argument that they had in the removed episode 91 likely is one of the reasons behind the block. But moving back to the topic.
And you couldn't see.
Andy Dick. Andy Dick is a comedian who had his best times in the 90s. He had his one and only appearance on the podcast removed, but has since been seen on the internet fighting people whilst under the influence.
Boy, you're on camera, boy.
Why didn't you fucking knock me out of here?
No, don't spit on my little brother. You're tripping.
You don't put your hands on everybody.
You're tripping.
No, you said, dude, I want a treat.
This episode was deleted due to Andy Dick's mental instability and substance abuse, which caused Andy Dick to be arrested on livestream for felony sexual battery. Dave Foley. Dave Foley is another comedian whose first appearance on the podcast was deleted. During this episode, Foley would give the details of his messy divorce.
All right, you can go see the therapist.
Set the traps.
Yeah. So she goes in and explains to the therapist that I'm an abusive husband. And then she starts phoning. She actually accused me of being physically abusive.
Whoa.
And then she starts like phoning my family and friends and saying that I'm physically abusive.
Okay, it's complete fabrications, right? So she's just creating stories.
A good friend of mine, Steve Hibbert, when he heard this, said that's crazy. If Dave was abusive, she would be dead. But then I go into therapy, and the therapist goes, who is prepared for this abusive husband to walk in, and she goes, and she explained to me later. She said it was very weird because you walked in and you didn't match the description of you at all. And she said when you walked in, and I saw you two together, I immediately realized that if anyone in this couple was abused, it was me.
Did the therapist say this to her?
I don't know if she ever said it to her in therapy.
Did you have a one-on-one with the therapist?
I had one-on-one with her. Yeah, we both saw her individually and together.
This divorce is super messy.
Well, she hasn't talked to me directly,
Really?
It's all through lawyers. But again, they were trying through this organization called the FRO, the Family Responsibility Office in Ontario, and this legal office is really responsible for hounding a lot of men to their death. Like, there's a real problem with like people committing suicide after being prosecuted by these people, and they were trying to get me. Like in November, I was sitting in a court in like November 20th, I guess, sitting in court and thinking at the end of that day I might go to jail for 6 months. They were pushing for me to go to jail for 6 months. This is what the FRO was asking. 6-month jail sentence if I didn't come up with $500,000 that day. And an additional 30 days for every month I didn't come up with the money.
Oh my God.
So, and I was sitting there going, well, the judge, if he goes for it,
you're in jail for life.
They'll cuff me there that day, take me to jail.
Oh my God.
And I'll go to jail for 6 months. At the end of 6 months, they'll say, well, do you have the $500,000? And plus the ongoing money that would accrue over the 6 months. And I'd say, no, I've been in jail for 6 months. How was I supposed to earn any money? All right, that's another 30 days. At the end of that 30 days, you got the money? No, I've been in jail.
So it's essentially a life sentence unless someone gives you $500,000.
Yeah.
How much longer do you have for this?
Well, it's unending until I pay off the arrears.
As Foley discussed the case of his divorce and his dealings with the Canadian justice system, this episode was taken down for legal reasons as the case was ongoing. Pete Johansson. Pete Johansson is another famous Canadian stand-up comic with his one and only podcast appearance back in 2011 that was deleted. This is another episode we could only find the audio for, and interestingly, the guest, Pete Johansson, was 1 hour late to this episode. If you want to go the conspiracy route, Joe does mention this in this episode.
Many of them were working in various industries, and they think, that was like a famous quote from one of the former heads of the CIA, that every single person of any significance in the media has been compromised.
Yeah, definitely.
like that's hilarious. Like whenever you see like famous actors like at the White House, like shaking hands with people, and what is that all about? What are they doing?
I don't know.
We already made a video about if Joe Rogan has been compromised by the CIA, so if you want to know more, we will leave it in the video cards. On this topic, Joe made a big conspiracy allegation, which also could be the reason behind this episode being taken down.
Pretty much likely that a comedian wouldn't be in the CIA except for Dennis Miller. Dennis Miller, I think that guy turned Republican and conservative hard so quick. He became so weird. He's like a shill now. It's really weird.
However, it is more likely this sensitive topic, which Rogan would also describe, which is sad, was too explicit for Spotify.
You hear about that broad in Egypt?
The one that
Porter?
Yeah.
Fuck, dude, it was horrific, man.
Yeah.
Especially having daughters. I think like this in a different way. This chick was over there, and apparently she got separated from her camera crew, and they beat her and her for a half an hour.
I know.
I don't know the extent of the beating or the extent of the sexual assault, whatever, but whatever it was. If it was slight, it would have been horrific and terrifying, but it's obviously significant because she's in the hospital.
Wasn't she with like a cameraman and a crew though?
I don't know what happened. Well, I think it was total, complete chaos. You got to think about the situation in Egypt is they had a dictator, the same guy running everything for 31 years. This guy just wouldn't go, and they overthrew him with the internet. Supposedly. Maybe the CIA too. The CIA probably. Yeah. Right? I don't ever trust that anything that happens in another country that we just let shit happen.
Right.
Little Esther. She was the first female guest to appear on the Joe Rogan Experience podcast. She's a comedian who also was Red Band's girlfriend back in the day. They would also talk about this.
Look a little. Thank you, Brian.
Brian just put a floppy dick in Esther's lap.
That's
one of
from
the
the
Fleshlight
Fleshlight.
ones. They made them. It's sort of a proof of concept device. Like they didn't make it so that anyone can use it, obviously, because it's too soft and it wouldn't really be functional unless you're just into disappointment. But they just wanted to show that they could get this.
They did kick the podcast off blasting this song for a full minute, so copyright is most likely an issue. However, as mentioned, Red Band and Little Esther did break up, so it is also possible that this could also have something to do with the episode being taken down. Doug Stanhope. Doug Stanhope is a comedian who has been on the podcast more than 10 times. However, his first episode is the only one that was removed from the internet. The first clip is of a crazy story in which Joe Rogan makes a comment which definitely would not pass nowadays.
So anyway, the guy is, you know, strapped to this table and she climbs all over him and he licked her, right? Did he lick her?
I can't remember.
Poor guy. We tortured this guy's memory forever. So he's like, everyone's going, yeah. People are cheering. And then she pulls out this tranny dick that looks like a poisoned monkey. That's what it looked like. It looked sick. Like it had been hit with so many female hormones. It was like an old man in a wheelchair. That's what a dick looked like. And she pulled it out. It was black. It was black and
Was it functional
dark
at
and
all, or was it
poisoned.
just a bunch of skin?
No, it's done. It's all done. I mean, it's just
No, it's
hanging off there.
functional, but-
I mean, it probably feels good when you suck it still.
Right.
You know, even a soft feels good if you suck it.
Right.
But I don't think there's, unless she pops Viagra. Maybe she could pop Viagra and still have a hard. But she's just so full of female hormones, or he is.
However, Stanhope would also drop this bomb out of nowhere in a conversation about people continuing to chase their dream of being a comedian.
Glutting the market. He talks about how he's got all these comics motivated now, and they're working together in these communities, and they're having writers clubs together. But what you're doing, you're saying everyone's innately funny, which is so horribly untrue. And what you're doing is giving them perseverance to keep bothering bookers and bothering promoters and clogging up open mic nights with shitty comedy because you told them, don't quit, keep trying. Even though
agree.
you're not funny whatsoever.
But out of those, like you're speaking to the worst case scenario. So if there's 100 people that take his course, there might be one or two that sneaks through the fucking salmon ladder.
They would
that
anyway.
Actually
They would anyway.
They might
Or in
anyway.
spite
You're
of.
right. They might anyway, and they might in spite of. But he might have introduced them to the game. He might have gotten them inspired.
You know
As
what? A lot of
ridiculous
girls
as
are
it
in.
seems.
They got.
I see your point.
Tyler Knight. Now, instead of being a comedian, Tyler Knight was an adult film star. He only appeared once on the Joe Rogan Experience back in 2010, and he has starred in over 300 films. In 2009, he won the Good For Her Feminist Porn Award as Heartthrob of the Year.
I've gotten calls, dude, of people saying, hey, Tyler, you want to make a tape with, and I'm not going to say the name, XYZ celebrity or whatever, to jumpstart a career. And I'm like, you're kidding me, right? No, really.
Wow.
So you're right. It happens all the time, man.
The people who just want to be famous, like the people who out there just trying to find some angle on getting famous.
Exactly.
What a fucking crazy world that is. Where you're just sitting there calculating, what should we do? Should we make a sex tape? We should make a sex tape. We can fake my death. Let's fake I'm drowning.
Now think of all the other 5 or 6 things on the list. That 20 things on the list you get to before that comes out to be a viable option.
Now, this episode mainly consisted of them discussing Tyler's career and the entire adult industry. However, due to Rogan's use of the N-word towards the end of this episode, it was of course taken down. Sam Tripoli. So, we are back with another comedian who is also a big-time conspiracy theorist. Sam Tripoli was on the podcast a lot during the early days, but over time started to be a guest less and less. It was his first appearance, however, that was taken down. Like most of these old episodes, it includes some wild stories.
I used to have a foot fetish because I dated this girl who was really into her feet. Yeah, she was really into her feet, and she had cute feet. She just was really into them though, and she would like rub her feet on my and shit like that. She was crazy.
Right.
But she would try to me off with her feet. She was
Really?
Yeah. She was a freak.
I just met somebody that liked that.
She was a freak. But this was when I was really young. I was like 16, 17. It was like one of my first girlfriends. So I had this foot thing for a while. You know, you connect. You
Right.
connect that with sexuality. I think
That's
if
weird.
you get into yeah, maybe that's weird, but it wasn't like that. I was only into feet. Like I just thought I like girls with pretty feet. They're
But you didn't
sexy.
see her feet and then pop a boner, did you?
No. But I found them attractive though. I found the whole package attractive, and the fact that she was like really into her feet.
So you don't have a foot fetish now?
No, I don't like them to be gross, but no, I don't have a foot fetish.
However, with cancel culture being at an all-time high, it was Joe's repeated use of this slur which is why the episode has been removed.
Kind of people that bash iPhones because they don't have iPhones.
Or Apple. Somebody put a thread up on the underground the other day. Tom Lawler, filthy Tom Lawler, the fighter, said, "Why should I tell me why I should buy a Mac?" And you know, people are like, "You, if you're gay, you should say if you're gay." It's all these dudes like get upset at Macs. You know,
So weird.
there's so many there, bro. There's so many reasons, and all of them just needed to be raised better. All of them were raised by other reasons. And it's just a cycle.
We got to thin the herd.
You know what we got to do? We got to figure out a way to fucking make people like develop and grow and evolve and catch the fuck up. Because these dumbasses having kids, these people that are just, their life is a holy wreck and their relationships are filled with fucking yelling and screaming and chaos and all sorts of dysfunctional bullshit and drugs and alcoholism and hate and anger. And these kids grow up in that and then they're
Tom Segura. Tom Segura is again another comedian who is a big-time regular on the podcast. This is the second earliest episode to be removed, and I am sure by this point in the video you can guess why it was taken down.
Kimbo Slice does, you know what I'm saying? Like every other word, you know what I'm saying? I'm here to put these things on, you know what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah, of course. I've heard so many interviews with like athletes, let's say, that it's know what I'm saying after everything. And then,
what's hilarious is when you hear comics use like a rapper will use, and this try to tell me, I'm like, you better get the fuck out of my face. I know what the fuck's going on.
Both episodes 664 and 1103 with Tom Segura, which we did not mention in part 1, were also removed for similar reasons.
Y'all don't know though. So are people allowed to use the N-word now that Obama said it on Mark Maron's podcast?
What I'm doing in the bit is basically lamenting but accepting that words are changing. Right. Like that's the tone of it.
Yes.
The tone of it is I'm going like, can't say anymore. That fucking sucks. But I'm also like, all right. You know what I mean? Like
You're
you can't-
saying okay. You
yeah,
give
I'm
into
like,
it.
Brian Redban. Finally, we have the guest who has had the most episodes he featured in removed. Redban was the show's first guest, and he was also the producer and, like, a co-host. So it is slightly cheating putting his name in our list, but he has been in more than 15 episodes that have been removed. We have already covered some of them, but here are the remaining Redban removed episodes. The two first episodes to get banned were with Rich Voss and Matt Van Grin. The reasoning isn't interesting. Both were due to copyright, with Redban showing clips of Comedy Central and then the full Scary Movie trailer in the other episode. Another guest who was on the podcast a lot during the early days, but then faded into obscurity, is Freddie Lockhart. His episode that was removed contained his hilarious impression skills that were a staple of his comedy routine.
Can you do Jesse Ventura?
Jesse the Body Ventura.
That's
now
pretty
it's
good.
Jesse the Mind Ventura.
That's
I
pretty
come on
goddamn
Joe
good.
Rogan's podcast to talk the truth.
Yeah,
That's pretty goddamn good.
Now, like a lot of these earlier episodes, it was removed for some controversial racial comments.
Freddie is one of those, you know that he's got some black in him, but how much?
How
What's
much?
going on here?
Are you asking me to strip Joe Rogan right now?
What are you? Yeah,
Dad's black, mom's white. Standard issue, pretty much.
Powerful combination genetic-wise, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I'll go
One of the
with
strongest combinations of all time.
I would say so.
Yeah, you get the body of the black man, and then you get the mind of the white man all
Right.
together in some
Yeah.
strange combination.
That's why
You
the
know, and
University of Arizona won the 1996 national championship. The whole
that
starting lineup
doesn't,
was
by the
mixed.
way, mean that black people don't have brains. It's
No.
a different brain.
Right.
Don't get me wrong. But I'm saying is clearly black people have the superior bodies.
The next episode with Redban and Rogan featured another comedian who has faded into obscurity. Joe, early in the podcast, describes a story about how he found out babies were made.
She was a good person, but when she raised me, she was very young. You know, she was 20 when she had me.
Me too.
And so she didn't know. She was a dingbat.
A kid. She was just a kid.
She was a kid.
Yeah.
So like she assumed I knew everything.
Right,
Like I
right.
didn't know how people had
As
sex.
you did for her.
I did not know how that people had sex, and I didn't know how babies were born until I was 7. She never told me. And then she goes, "You know," and I go, "I don't know." I go, "I don't know. Tell me what it is."
You literally
You're just
asked
gonna make
her?
fun of it. I go, "I'm just gonna make fun of it. Tell me how people make babies." I had no idea. And my mom, I was in the car. I remember this very clearly. 1970 Barracuda. I'm sitting in the back seat with my sister. And I go, just tell me. So she tells me. She goes, the man sticks his in the woman's vagina. I start fucking laughing. And she reaches back and hits me in the head for laughing. She's like, I knew it. I knew you were just trying to make fun of it. I go, I didn't know. I didn't know what it meant.
It's a legitimate question.
That was one time that happened.
Joe would then segue from this story to drop the N-bomb a couple times. Hence why this episode is taken down.
And the other time it happened was we were in Florida because some kid kept talking about. There was some kid in my school that just kept talking about. Like, man, we got problems here. These are moving in, and I was like, what the f is this guy talking about? And I just moved there, so I didn't want to ask questions. You know, I was a shy 11-year-old from San Francisco. All of a sudden, I'm around alligators and shit.
Right.
You know, and so I asked my mom. I said, what is a? And she's like, will you stop doing that? Don't make me talk about things I don't want to talk about. And I go, I'm telling you, I don't know what it is. She goes, it's a bad word for black people. And I was like, whoa.
Right.
Like, hold on. Like, this dude is like claiming there's some war going on between white people and black people.
Well, in his mind,
and
there
I'm
are.
like, is that really going down out here? Like, I was so shocked that the environment was so radically different.
I know all these episodes have Red Band in them, but really Joe is the majority of the reason why most of these have been taken down. Oh, wait a minute.
Think about this.
The kids in my neighborhood, they used to call this thing where they would knock on the door and run. They used to call it knocking.
Yep.
And I didn't know that the word here. So one of my times I was like in front of the class doing something, I brought up, yeah, so me and my friends like to go knocking.
Oh my God.
Under your interests of things you like to do.
Oh, no, you did not.
Yeah, and I remember that I still didn't realize that that was a bad word for some time until one day I kept on using that word. And
oh, my God.
My mom was like, listen here, this is a bad word. But then my grandmother would be like, oh, I can't believe they still have colored cashiers at this, you know, all that. Like, she would say the word colored all the time. I'm like, what's that about?
Oh, my goodness.
The next deleted episode is with Rogan and Red Band Oli, the iconic duo. From the opening minute, you can see the transformation the podcast has gone through to get to the point it is at today.
This one's dedicated to all the haters out there. Jealous of us because
I guess you pronounce it D-N-word.
I think we can understand why Joe would replace Red Band as the producer of the podcast.
You know, but do you got it? Do you got Zeph's side?
Yeah, if your Wi-Fi works.
See if
with
it
me
loads
today.
up. Because it's fascinating. You have to see the YouTube. They're like all just standing outside.
lives with his granny, and then I live with my mom and dad down the road, and then Yolandi lives.
This is the most ghetto way of showing something ever.
So why was this episode removed? I am sure by now you likely already can guess the answer.
Guy who dresses up like a for sure he said somewhere in his life. For sure, right?
Totally.
He doesn't like Jews.
Do you think that he has ever touched a child?
Could be. Could be he's touched a child. Something's wrong with that dude. There's definitely something very, very wrong with him.
Another episode that was removed with just Rogan and Red Band is episode 21. Again, like all these old episodes, it is wild.
And I put this picture up on my Twitter the other day. Somebody sent me this Twitter. Hey, Joe, have you ever seen a triangle like this before? So I click on it, you know, thinking that it's probably a guy caught somebody in a triangle. Well, it sorta. What it is this site called GhettoGaggers.com. Do you know that site?
No.
It's a site that is dedicated to it's all white guys, like nerdy white guys, and they're making these black ghetto chicks gag from fucking their mouths.
What?
And so I tuned into this picture. I clicked this link this guy sends me, and it's this white nerdy dude with these pale, skinny white legs with black socks and black sneakers on, and he's got a no-arm triangle like this around this chick's head. This chick's head is like right here, and she's, you know, he's shoving his dick in her mouth with his triangle, and she's like literally throwing up all over his balls and his asshole. And I'm like, it said so much to me though, that what kind of a strange world do we live in where it's so normal to just click a link and it takes you to a guy stuffing his into some chick's mouth and she's throwing up all over his ass, and all I do is giggle. All I do is go, ha, you got me, you
Also, like the majority of the old episodes, they were both baked out of their mind.
I'm not talking about like words like dogs talk to you, but you ever meet a dog and you know you can't with this dog.
Oh,
You never meet a dog and you're like, what's going on, buddy? And you're looking at him and he's looking at you and you're like, okay, I'm gonna get the fuck away from you. That dog is sending, there's somehow or another, I mean, it's not even his demeanor, he's not growling at you, but he's just giving you a look and you're getting a message. He's communicating with you, but you got all sorts of shit inside your head, the stock market and your divorce and your fucking homework and this and that and language and English and I'm learning Spanish and you got all this shit going on in your head. I bet the Earth itself actually has like some sort of a way of communicating with beings and with animals that don't have languages. Like they can tune into shit that we can't tune into. You know,
But
that's how dogs can smell things and tune into things, and I mean they have super powered senses.
So why was this episode removed? Well,
that was the really uncomfortable scene where Quentin Tarantino tried to be down and said the word to Samuel Jackson and kept saying it. I got a dead in my house. Like, why do I have a dead in my house?
Right.
And it was like, what? Yeah. Who the talks like that?
Yeah.
You know, who? There's not even gangsters. Even there's no white guys that talk like that to black guys. Why do I have a dead in my house? I mean, that scene was so fake, and it was so like him living out some weird white boy fantasy where he wants to be able to say to a black guy because he wrote it in a script.
Yeah. We are at the final removed episode. Again, it is between Rogan and Redban, and it only took them 4 episodes to say something that could get them canceled. But before we get into that, let's take a look back on this episode. To begin, the first 5 minutes of the podcast had no audio.
No sound? Is there song? No sound? Is there song? Jesus Christ. I should have known. I couldn't hear myself. I should have known.
Well, it's recorded on here, so the replays will have it.
The replays will have it, but nobody wants to watch the replays, goddammit.
Well, let's recap
what
what we're talking about.
Hilarious cluster.
Here, pause on that.
We're gonna
mute the audio.
Why am I muting the audio?
Because it's an echo.
Oh, because you hear me.
What was also very different is that the old shows were live streamed, and they answered the viewers' questions, which led to some interesting interactions.
Hey, look, check this guy. David Gowie, Goewey, says, I'm up at 3:48 a.m. in Abu Dhabi. Now answer some questions, Joe. Well, yeah, dude. I'll answer some questions. You're up at 4 o'clock in the morning and you live in Abu Dhabi? I got some questions for you, sir. What's it like over there, man? I hear that it's all like everybody's got a Ferrari. It's like one of the richest places in the world. I've heard it's fucking crazy. Is that true, sir?
Prostitution legal there?
I don't think prostitution is, but I think if you're like, you know, some sort of a baller character, I mean, I think they just ignore it. I mean, the way it happens in Dubai is like all the hookers just go there. They just know where all the rich guys are, that rich guys go to Dubai, so the hookers just come from everywhere. And I think they just ignore it.
So why was this episode removed? Well, of course, it is because they used slurs.
And at the end of the day, like, what language is supposed to represent is the context of your thoughts. You know, and the problem is when words get hyperpowered, like or or now, it's like the new one, you know, or love. Love's a hyperpowered word too. You know, these words get hyperpowered, and the word itself is more important than the meaning behind the word.
If you haven't seen part 1, click here to watch, or if you want to learn other Joe Rogan conspiracies and secrets, click here to watch our complete Joe Rogan iceberg.